Financial Pickle here. For those of you that don't know me, I retired early at age 33 and I want to teach you how to do the same. There's a lot to cover, so I plan on making this into a series with a few different videos. This first one will cover the basic fundamentals of what you need to know before you begin the journey. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First, let's talk about the how. How are you going to get from where you are now to being rich and having enough money to retire? There are many potential ways to do it, but I believe the best method is the one that's available to the most people and the one that will most consistently get you to that retirement goal. One method of getting there is with gambling. And when I say gambling, I mean making bets that are purely based on luck, like the lottery, slot machines, or scratch-off tickets. Let's say you worked for a few years and managed to save $200K. If I offered you a 5% chance to turn it into $5 million or lose it all, should you take the offer? To figure that out, we need to look at something called the expected value. The expected value of a wager is how much you can expect to make or lose on average each time you do it. It's calculated by multiplying the amount won if you win times the probability of winning minus the amount lost if you lose times the probability of losing. The expected value of a coin flip is 0 because you have a 50% chance to win and a 50% chance to lose the same amount. So on average you aren't expected to make or lose any money. The offer I just mentioned has an expected value of $50K, which means the odds are in your favor, and on average you are expected to make $50K each time you do it. So does that mean you should take the bet? Not exactly. If you lose, you're starting back at 0. You could keep trying, but $200K takes a long time for the average person to save. Even if you make the bet 10 times, your chance of winning at least one time is only 40%. This means you have a 60% chance to be old and broke by doing this. On average, the more times you make the bet, the closer and closer you will get to the plus 50K expected value per bet. To illustrate this, I did a random simulation with this bet where I did it a set number of times starting with 1, then doubled it each time. Then I took the average gain or loss per bet in each set. As you can see, the results are very inconsistent until you do it around 100 times. So if you have 20 million lying around to be able to do that, then you'll probably make a significant amount of money. And if the option was available, you could also make more bets with a smaller amount per bet to improve the consistency. But the problem is you're not going to find a deal like that in real life. The expected value on almost any gambling bet will be negative. The house almost always has an advantage, and that's how they make their money. Sure, there will be some big payouts here and there, but on average the house will make money for each bet that is made, which means the more bets you make, the more likely it is that you'll have a loss overall. Mr. Beast actually purchased $1 million worth of scratch-off tickets in one of his videos, and in the end he was left with only $720,971, a 28% loss. So overall, gambling is a very poor choice as a method of getting rich because the expected value is almost always negative and it won't consistently get you to retirement. You try to be that lucky person that wins it big, but you almost always end up losing instead. Now let's talk about options. Every type of gamble or investment, including options, has an expected value, although it's hard to quantify if the exact probabilities and outcomes aren't given to you like they were in the $200K gambling example. Each option strategy does, on average, perform differently than others, but that specific information is pretty much impossible to get. But what we can say for certain is if we combine every single options trade across every single strategy, the expected value would be 0. This is because there are two parties in each contract, and when one person makes money, the other person loses the exact same amount of money. So even though we don't know the expected values of each strategy, there is still one that I want to talk about, and that's the YOLO long option. This involves putting most or all of your portfolio into a single long options position. And while some people may make it big by doing this, most people will not. Even if the expected value on this strategy is positive, you won't be able to attempt it enough times to consistently get that positive result because you're doing it with your entire account each time, similar to the $200K wager we looked at earlier. Therefore, YOLO long options are also a poor choice. However, the odds are probably a bit better than with gambling. You can also increase your chances by intelligently deciding what to trade and when to trade, whereas gambling is just blind luck. Another method is to start a business. This will end up looking similar to the $200K wager as well due to the high failure rate. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, about 75% of businesses fail before they make it to the 15-year mark. And those that make it to that point aren't necessarily thriving. The expected value on starting a business is most certainly positive, however you likely won't be able to start enough businesses to consistently get to that positive number and make it to retirement. And having the right people leading the business can easily make the difference between success and failure. And the last method I'll talk about is investing. And the key with this is to diversify and invest in things that have a positive expected value, like the stock market or real estate. The S&P 500 is often looked at as a measurement of how the US stock market is doing. Over the last 50 years, it has averaged about a 10% return per year. There are several reasons why it keeps going up, but I'll save that for another video. Just know that this trend higher will very likely continue in the long run. Now, of course, the gains aren't guaranteed, but for this video, I'll assume the average gain going forward is 10%. It's important to diversify because that will make your returns more consistent. Sure, if you only own one stock, you could pick the next Tesla and get rich much quicker, but you could also pick the next Blockbuster and lose it all. If you're diversified enough and one of your investments goes bankrupt, then it will barely make a dent in your portfolio. The more stocks you own and the longer you hold them, the more consistently you'll get to the plus 10% per year expected value. Growing your money ultimately just comes down to making bets with positive expected values and being able to make enough bets to consistently get to that positive result. This is why I think investing is the best method. You can easily diversify your bets through an index fund or by purchasing fractional shares of stock, even if you don't have a lot of money. Anyone can do it, and you don't need to be a business expert to be successful. The other methods I mentioned can get you to retirement quicker, but if they don't work, it sets you back too much to be worth the attempt in most cases. You only have one life to live. You can't keep restarting and trying again forever. It's best to do the method that will consistently get you to retirement. Otherwise, if you get unlucky with other methods, you could end up old and broke. You don't need to have a six-figure salary to get rich and retire early. I started my first after-college job at Charles Schwab in October 2011, and I was able to retire just 9 years later in December of 2020. My starting salary was $34,000, and with overtime and bonus, I made about $40,000 in my first year. In the year that I retired, I made about $96,000. I never made six figures, and I was still able to retire after just 9 years. A big reason why I was able to do this is because I kept my expenses very low and saved about 70 to 80% of my after-tax income. Now, you don't have to go as extreme as I did, but it will definitely get you to retirement a lot quicker. Even just a small amount can make a big difference. If you're currently saving 5% of your income, then saving just 1% more means you're saving 20% more money. Whenever you spend money, there's always an opportunity cost. Rather than spending it, you could have saved it instead, and your savings will generally grow over time. Because of this, you shouldn't think about what something costs now, but rather what that money could turn into if you don't spend it. If you invest $100 into the S&P 500 and earn the plus 10% expected value for 10 years, then that $100 will turn into $259. Or you can think about how much income that $100 can provide you instead. If you invest it in income-producing assets, that money could provide you $3 to $4 of income per year for the rest of your life, with the potential to grow depending on what you invested in. When you look at it from a different perspective, that new pair of shoes or night out with your friends is costing you a lot more than it looks. If you want to reduce your spending, it's best to focus on fixed monthly expenses first. This is the worst type of expense because you don't really think about them. With other purchases, you have to make a conscious decision every time you buy, but fixed monthly expenses just automatically drain your bank account month after month. And when you take the time to reduce them, you save money month after month without doing additional work each time. Too many people get into the habit of spending almost everything they earn and living paycheck to paycheck. Rather than thinking about what you can afford, think about what you actually need. Once you make enough money to cover your basic needs, then anything additional can go straight into savings. If you get a raise or a new job that pays more, that doesn't mean you need to live in a bigger house or drive a fancier car. It means you can save a lot more money and retire quicker. If you were able to live comfortably before the pay raise, then you should be able to live comfortably after the pay raise without spending additional money. Now, I'm not saying you can't splurge a little, but for me, I probably saved about 90% of the extra money when I got a raise or a bonus. Saving more money is better than earning more money because of taxes. If you choose to not spend $1,000 and put it into savings instead, you get the full $1,000. That money has already been taxed. But if you earn an extra $1,000 at your job, then you might only end up with $800 because that money will be taxed. It's best to focus on earning more money and saving more money at the same time, but if you have to do one or the other, then saving more of what you already earn will net you more money than earning a higher salary of the same amount. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. In part 2, I'll talk about the single biggest thing that helped get me to retirement and also about how I used to live in a closet. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon if you don't want to miss it. Financial Pickle here, keeping you out of the pickle jar.